Who's ready for another mini savings challenge? Alright, you guys, welcome to February and welcome to February's new mini savings challenge. If you're new around here and we haven't had the chance to hang out before, my name is Nikki. I'm an Aussie mum and I love sharing all of the tips and tricks that have helped our family budget better, demolish all of our debt, skyrocket our savings, and still have heaps of frugal fun along the way. One of the things that we like to do are these little mini savings challenges that help us rein in our budget a little bit, curb our spending, and help us focus on reaching our financial goals. All right, so before we jump in and talk about what we're going to do in February, I'll just do a quick recap of what happened here in January and let you guys know how we did. So our challenge for January was to have a pantry challenge, which means we were focusing on creating meals and meal planning around the things that we already had on hand in the fridge, freezer, and pantry. The idea was to cut back our grocery spending a little bit, save that money instead, and focus on using up the things that we already have. So our totals are in. We spent just under $220 on groceries for our family. Our allocation at the moment is $400 a month. So we were able to save a little more than $180. So almost half of our grocery allocation went straight across into savings, which is pretty cool. So what I want to challenge you guys to do in February is take it up a notch. We are having a spending freeze in February, or a no spend month. Now, if you have a bit of a look around on social media, you'll probably see a bunch of people are doing a similar sort of thing. February is a great month to do a spending freeze or a no spend month because it's the shortest month. I mean, let's be honest, it's the easiest month to give up something for because it's only 28 days. If you've never heard of a spending freeze or a no spend month, you might be wondering what we're talking about and thinking that this whole thing is a little bit crazy. And if you've looked into it a little bit, you'll probably have noticed that everybody has a different way of doing this. There's really no right or wrong way to doing a spending freeze. It's just what works for you. So in today's video, I'm going to let you guys know how we're going to do it. And I hope that gives you a few ideas. So if you would like to try a spending freeze or a no spend month this month with us, you will join in the fun. All right, so what is a spending freeze? Well, it is pretty much exactly what it sounds like it is. We're not going to spend money on a certain category for an entire month. Now, the easiest way to do that is really to pick something that is a miscellaneous spending allocation that you have or category that you spend money on. And it might actually be your miscellaneous spending just in general. You could also opt to give up something like eating out or alcohol or clothes shopping, whatever it is, it's really up to you. For us, we are going to do without miscellaneous spending because that is the one thing in our budget that can get out of hand very quickly if we're not really conscious about what we're spending. So for us, our miscellaneous spending is basically anything that we haven't allocated money to in our budget. We do a month ahead budget, and I try to pre-plan how much I'm going to need to spend on the various categories in our budget ahead of time, allocate that money, and then stay within that allocation. But one of the things that I do is I allocate a certain amount of money to miscellaneous spending, which is a bit of a catch-all, and our buffer to stop our budget from going off the rails because of the things that come up that we either didn't know about or we forgot about or we didn't plan for. I mean, you know, budgets kind of need a little bit of room for spontaneity in them. Otherwise, it's really, really hard to stick with it. But if you have a category like miscellaneous spending and you give it too much leash, let me just say that thing can get away from you really quickly. So basically, in a nutshell, we are not going to spend anything in miscellaneous spending for the month of February. But there is another way to do that, and this is the way that I first attempted to do a spending freeze, because back when I was just starting to get a handle on our budget, the idea of not spending money for an entire month on a certain category was just way too overwhelming. So if that's you, My suggestion is go and check out Jordan Page over at funcheaporfree.com. She has a great video explaining how to do a really simple spending freeze for just 7 days. And rather than going over all of that here with you guys now, what I'm going to do is link that video down below so you can go and check that out if you would like to try that method. But basically, she spends $0 across the board for 7 days. The exception is things like your electricity bill or your mortgage, those sorts of things that you really probably should pay and stay on top of because you don't want to fall behind. But everything else gets cut. So she does a pantry challenge, a no eating out challenge, a no buying clothes, spending on cosmetics, going out for dinner or with friends. Everything just gets cut off, but just for 1 week. So like I said, you can go and check that video out if you want to, or if you feel up to doing the entire month, which is what we're going to do, then I'm going to give you my 3 best tips for success coming up. All right, so basically how to get the most out of a month-long spending freeze. Well, it comes down to a couple of things. One, you need to know how much you are spending in that category or area of your budget. If you've been budgeting for a while, then you might have a bit of an idea of how much you ordinarily spend in that area that you're going to give up. So if it is eating out, hopefully you've already allocated a certain amount of money to that each month that you know gets spent on eating out. And what you're doing is opting to direct that money somewhere else in your budget instead of to eating out. And it's going to be going to either saving up your emergency fund, paying off your debt, going to one of your big savings goals, or being invested. Basically, what you want to do is make that money work for you this month instead of being sort of tapped away into the FBOSS black hole. If you don't really know how much you ordinarily spend on the category that you would like to cut back on this month, you've got 2 choices. Number 1 is you can go back through your bank statements and say, look at the last 3 months and have an average of how much you've spent in that category. And then just direct that average amount to your savings instead. The other way to do it, and this is a little bit more complicated, but it also works, is that every time you decide not to spend money, immediately take that money off your transaction account and send it to your savings account. So if you are out and about and instead of spending $10 on lunch, you decide that you're just going to go home and eat something at home, then take that $10 right there and then out of your transaction account and send it to your savings goal. Like I said, that way is a little bit more complicated, but it works as well. All right, my next tip is to not get overwhelmed by the idea of not spending in one category for an entire month. When we think like that and we think big, it's really overwhelming. So the easiest way to do it is just to take it 1 week at a time. So basically we're looking at 7 days. And again, if we take our example of not eating out, we're just not going to eat out for the next 7 days. Once we've accomplished that, then we'll look at the next 7 days and we'll focus on that. And if we can get through 2 weeks, clap on the back, let's go for 3. And then before you know it, really, we've done 4 weeks, because once you're over the halfway mark, it's really hard to break the streak. But basically, we're just going to take it 1 week at a time until we get to the end of the month. And my third tip kind of goes hand in hand with the one that I just shared with you, but it is basically this. If you fall off the wagon, it doesn't mean give up. So if you do have a day where your best made plans just basically, whatever, it is what it is. It doesn't mean you give up for the rest of the month. So take this example. Maybe you're going to stop buying lunch every day and take lunch from home. Across February, that might be 20 lunches that you're going to pack at home and take instead of buying while you're out. Okay, so say you forget one and you take 19 lunches from home and you buy one. You are still 19 lunches in front of where you would have been if you didn't take up the challenge. So that's pretty much it. They're my big tips for being successful with a spending freeze challenge. Our goal is to save at least $100 by not spending any money on miscellaneous things in our budget. But I do want to push that up a notch because I think we can also handle an extended pantry challenge here at our place as well. Because the reality is we still have quite a bit of food in our freezer and our pantry. So I'm going to tack on an additional challenge for us, which is going to be $50 February. We are going to have $50 a week to spend on groceries to supplement the things that we already have on hand in our pantry and our freezer. So I'm going to double down in February. I'm going to do a spending freeze on our miscellaneous spending, but I'm also going to tack on a pantry challenge as well. All right, well, that is it. That's our mini savings challenge for February. I would love to hear from you guys if you are going to join in, if you're going to do a spending freeze with us. If you've done a spending freeze in the past, I would also love to hear from you. Why don't you go and share your best tips down below so that if other people would like to join in and maybe they're a little bit overwhelmed or they're not too sure where to start, we've got a bit of a collection of tips from people who've done this before. Maybe we've succeeded, maybe we haven't, but we can help each other out by sharing what we've done and what worked and what didn't. All right, well, I hope you have a fantastic week. I really do hope you join us for our February mini savings challenge. And I hope it helps you come up with some creative ways to put some extra dollars towards your big savings goals in 2021. All right, well, until next time, take care. Bye.